So welcome to the quarterly update for the Nordic region and the November version. So we've been trying to do those for a couple of times now, and I'm super happy to have as many online and all over the place. So super happy with that. The panel today, slight update. We have the famous trio here. We have from Norway, Henrik, from Sweden, Roger, and from Denmark, we have Nadim. And as you can see, we have a new representative from Finland. So it's Hannu, who is new today, and he is on the board of PropTech Finland. So he for sure knows the area and been in PropTech for a long time. So maybe we should start by giving each one a quick introduction. So let's start from right here. So let's start with Norway and Henrik. So who are you and what's your play in the Nordic PropTech scene?
Thank you very much. So my name is Henrik. I am the founder of PropTech Norway, and we are trying to merge the real estate industry with the tech industry here in Norway. I've been also formerly director for WeWork in the Nordics and the Netherlands, and now I'm back in my profession as a lawyer, but still running the PropTech initiative here from Norway.
Perfect. And Roger, Sweden.
Yeah, hi, Roger Tofft, founder of PropTech Sweden. Been in the real estate for 8 years. Had some reseller company. Done the smartest building in South Sweden, 2016, and just pushing the community in Sweden right now.
Perfect. Denmark, Nadim.
Hi, I'm Nadim Stub. I'm the managing director of PropTech Denmark. We drive the ecosystem here. And I have a background within both tech and real estate, going back to almost 13.
Perfect. And Finland, Käki.
Hi, I'm Hannu Käki, one of the co-founders of PropTech Finland. I've been in the real estate industry for 5 years now. Before, earlier in early phase companies, more now currently working for Hyperin in the retail real estate, more in a scale-up phase being company, and still in the board of PropTech Finland, and also in the member board of European PropTech House. So involved with the same agenda like Henrik, merging the real estate industry and tech companies internal. Thank you for the opportunity to participate here today.
You're more than welcome. So maybe you can, in the end, give the European version of what's happening out there. So short introduction for myself. So I'm Magnus Svantegård. I've been in PropTech for 24 years. Imagine it or not. Most of that time within the Stronghold group. Spent a long time being the head of product at Dacia. Now working at the Stronghold group with companies like Newsec and IAM. So I'm very much in the digital disruption and actually also some PropTech investments. So that's what we do. The Nordic PropTech Initiative is an initiative to kind of bring the overall Nordic perspective on PropTech, and especially to give it for the non-Nordic people. So quite a few here from England, US, and mainland Europe. So I'm super happy to have you here online. And just also for the different countries. If you work in one country in the Nordics, you don't have too much access and insights what's happening. So for example, if you're from Sweden, you don't keep on track of everything that's happening in Denmark, Norway, and Finland. Maybe we should, but it's not that easy. And this quarterly update is one way to make that slightly easier to understand what's happening in the broader PropTech area, but especially when it comes to the tech side of it. But maybe we should start off where we unfortunately have started off the last two also. In other words, sorry, the COVID situation that keeps on growing almost now. So if we go through each country, you can give a quick update on what is the, for example, effect on real estate versus lockdown, and also especially, do you see any trends emerging for the PropTech companies? So let's start with Roger, Sweden.
Super, thanks for that, Magnus. Yeah, so of course we have a challenge. We go in the second wave right now, and the challenge is, of course, our prime minister doesn't really want to do a lockdown. This, of course, is a challenge when you tell, example, the gym to not go to the gym, but you don't want to help them or close them down. And I think that will affect the whole real estate, because if you don't help the real estate or the tenants, we will have a challenge and a problem in the future. So I think that's something I'm a little worried about right now. The other point of view between real estate and PropTech, that because of this, you see, we keep moving, working from home and working from anywhere. You're talking about a lot international also. And I think a lot of the real estate talking about data. How can we help and how can we get the data so we know what kind of decision we want to take in the future? So I think that's, from a point of view, it's driven in pushing that data. So I think that's from the positive view of, if anything can be positive from COVID-19, of course.
Yes, and Nadim, Denmark.
Well, yeah, as Roger mentioned, we are going through our second wave as well here, and by and large, it's in some ways similar to the first wave. There's a bit more flexibility in terms of moving around, although obviously there are obviously restrictions, but a lot of them are also, on top of that, it's just mostly recommendations. From the real estate point of view, obviously there is a problem when it comes to rent, especially within retail and food and beverage. So I think actually we were estimating 2 billion krona, which is about 250,000 euros, 250 million euros, give or take. No, yeah. And so, you know, that's obviously playing a role here. I'm sure many other countries are in the same boat where that plays in. Also, echoing Roger, the conversation in terms of data, really interesting. The owners and operators are acknowledging that that's one way to start, not just to start looking into new potential, but even to just in a much more empiric way solving some of the problems that are there for them in the short term. So hopefully that short-term thinking will evolve into something a bit more long-term that will benefit the ecosystem in a much more holistic way. So we're helping in that regard. We're seeing actually both there's stir in the market, but we're actually also getting quite a lot of requests to help support and advise on new ways of working, and what sort of solutions can be brought into that, what sort of advisors and experts are necessary to sort of drive that agenda. And these are with some very, very large companies that some of them are not even in the real estate sector, but they own mass amounts of square meters. So it becomes a very natural way for them to think in that regard. And we're getting a lot of interest generally in what sort of PropTech solutions are out there when it comes to managing buildings, managing the space around and within the buildings, and it all plays back into the whole social distancing aspect. So yeah, that was sort of the run of the mill on that.
Cool. And let's go to Norway before we take Finland last.
Yeah, so there are a lot of exciting things happening in PropTech that I will, of course, share with you. But when it comes to the COVID crisis, we also have our second wave here in Norway. And it's been handled by saying that, well, it's mainly a kind of a big city problem. So they have a full kind of lockdown in Oslo, and and the rest of the country have different kind of regulations. So here, all the bars and gyms and everything they are closed for 3 weeks just to handle the situation, and the rest of the country have different regulations. So it's kind of a new way to look into that and of course there's a debate with Oslo, because one side of the city has like triple the amounts of cases than the other part, and there's all these discussions around this. But now for 3 weeks there's a lockdown here, and but for PropTech, I think there's been a lot of opportunities. I will get back to some of the success stories from lately, but the what they call the Mercury market, there's been a lot of listings in tech companies there now, and they're all doing really well. So there's kind of an optimism going on now, and especially after they also announced the vaccine now a few weeks ago. I think there's going to be more optimism in this market going forward. So I think that this will lead to a lot of opportunities for these PropTech companies, actually.
Cool. And finally, Finland and Hannu.
I try to avoid repeating too many things that have been already mentioned. For example, in Recotech now during today and yesterday, but from a PropTech's perspective, it is still turning to more and more opportunity. I see that the current COVID situation is probably many of you now know already that it's more milder still in Finland. It can change in any day, of course. So living day by day, but how things have changed during the past months, I see after the first wave and reactions in the real estate and PropTech industry. From the PropTech's perspective, is that the attitude in the market is still changing and becoming more open, and that is something that for the industry and for the PropTech industry is a positive direction, of course, and even though things are challenging and for everybody, for any in any real estate asset class and tech companies in general, but the direction in a big picture is getting more better for the PropTech companies. That's very much in brief. The day situation with COVID and also the current fall and end of year with PropTechs. Thanks.
Thank you so much. It seems that we are quite in line within the Nordic countries if we look at the broader spectrum. We show one slide here that I find quite interesting is for you who haven't heard about Leaseman and Leaseman Index, I really encourage you to go and see what they're doing. So this is a company from UK that doing massive investigations on how employees like their office. How do they rate the office from different aspects? And this is not just asking around a few friends and colleagues in the industry. They have actually done this for a couple of years and now have 800,000 employees measured from over, I think it's almost 200 companies on a global scale. And to explain this graph a little bit, on the y-axis you see LME 79, 71, 55. That is the overall scoring, Leaseman score of the offices. So the higher LME score, the better office experience you have rated by the occupancies. And what you can see here on the x-axis with blue scale is how many days people would prefer to work from home. And I think this is an interesting statistics, and especially like Nadim mentioned, there's a lot of things going on in the market to create potential solutions for this potential hybrid market going forward. And what you can see from this graph is that if you have a very good office experience for the tenants and your employees, so you have the LME of 79 or above, most people would love to go back to the office. Maybe a few percent would love to stay maybe 1 or 2 days, but almost the majority would love to go back at least 4 days a week to the office. But if you look at the bottom bar, you have a tenant experience of 56. Then absolute majority would love to work 3 days away from the office. So this could be rather scary for the employer or the landlord that have not as good properties. So I think there would be a big divide in the market when it comes to who are actually able to fill their vacant spaces in the long run. So any comments on this graph or the least man index in general? Have you listened into their webinars?
I'd like, one of the things I was thinking when I was looking at this is, I mean, I'd like to see an age distribution on this also.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, they have. I listened to a webinar like a few months ago, and I think there were like 200 slides. They have so much data, and they cut it all over the place. And I know one very, very large occupier that has done it, and for that very large tech, there was actually not that big difference in the age groups, which really shocked me.
Interesting.
And they didn't, that particular firm, I mean, it depends on what firm you are and in what market you are and also, but they are a global company. And actually they didn't see that big difference between regions either, which was a big surprise for me.
I think, yeah, and this shows that there's, it's kind of a new way to think about things as well, because now the office has never been challenged, right? So you go have a job, you go to the office, and that's how it works. But now the other option is staying at home, and another option is renting kind of a co-working space near where you live and have like a flexible desk somewhere. And then suddenly the real estate owners have to compete with other alternatives than sending everyone to the office. And I don't think everyone's prepared for that, because if you have a bad office in a bad location, why should you go there when the other option is to sit at home or to go to the cool flex office right by next where you live? But if and it's of course, if there's a great office, then your offering is better than what any flex office provider could do, or what you could even build at home. But there's kind of a sense that there's a new competitor in the office market, which is the home office and kind of the co-working space as well. Like there's other options than just the discussions we had 2 or 3 years ago. There weren't really any kind of alternatives to working at an office being presented, and now there's a big alternative here, and then the office owners has to take that seriously.
Henrik, I have to ask, since you threw away the t-shirts and brought on a suit again and going back to the legal firm, how is the legal firms in Norway handling this situation?
So everyone is, of course, sent home, and then you can have a few exceptions as well, like when I have a webinar or these small exceptions. But I would say 80% are sitting at home, and then some people find it nice to be at home and work from there. But personally, we have of course, a great office at a great location, so I would rather prefer to go to my office, even though I have like a big office for myself. No co-working feeling here at all, but still you want to go to kind of a nice office that you have. So, and I think all the legal firms that now sent everyone home, they're trying the home office. I think I don't know quite yet, but I think efficiency would go a bit down, I would think, at least kind of a creativity and like those kind of discussions. So I would think people will in this industry will try to go back, but there's some kind of an X factor for the law firms, because they all have great offices. Like all the law firms in Oslo have like super offices in the best locations. So they would, I would think a lot of people here would want to go back. But if you have this an office in kind of more of a office hub outside the city or somewhere with the low quality, I would not be. So I would think that people would be dragged back to the office in the same kind of way. So yeah.
Yeah. And for the other countries, any comments on the Leaseman? Yeah, Roger.
I think also we need to discuss not so much. I mean, work from home, fine, but it's more about work from anywhere. Recotech had
absolutely.
Recotech had a great speaker today from our club here in London to a local hub. So not so much. Well, it's a co-working, but it's more local. And I think you will have a much more challenge because the local will challenge the normal co-working spaces also. So a co-working space doesn't have to be WeWork. It can be more a local restaurant, local club, something who just have a gym, a health center. So I think more will challenge the normal office. And I think also it's a bigger question because now we're just talking about the urbanization. We're just talking about big cities, and you have a big workforce outside the cities that also needs what is the local. Just because you live on the countryside doesn't mean that you want to sit in your house every day. Especially now when seeing Stockholm, more people moving out from Stockholm to the countryside. But just because they move outside Stockholm, they still miss the pulse of a city. So you still want to go in maybe to the local village or something to feel the local hub and have a community and work. So I think it's a much bigger question. But like I agree with Henrik, now finally someone actually start to challenge the normal office. So I think that's the big thing here.
Yeah, and I just to add to Roger's comment, I very much agree with that. We have discussed this before, but I think all the local hubs will be more and more relevant. So it doesn't really have to be WeWork or anything. Like the local cafe could be our competitor also, right? After COVID goes away. So I think a lot of these more local hubs will challenge big parts of the market. And also a lot of people are moving into Oslo every day, every morning, and if they had like somewhere central in their own city, they could go in Monday and Tuesday and then be in their own city on Wednesday, Thursday and Friday and work from there. And I spoke with a woman who was starting a co-working space far outside Oslo in a kind of an old farm, and asked her what's the kind of the idea here, and said that, well, there's a lot of local business here. A lot of people go to other big cities, and we even don't have great internet in this whole kind of village. Like the internet connection is bad in people's home in general, and with the home office, it's a big problem. So now I gather everyone with super high speed internet, good pulse, like a co-working space in the middle of nowhere, but still it's a lot of local businesses in the area, like big industrial companies and people working from home with low speed internet. So she said that this is a great market for her, even though she doesn't really have a central location at all, which goes kind of against the whole WeWork idea. But I think that's going to be an interesting development for sure.
No, the same here. Do you see the same thing in Denmark and Copenhagen about potentially people moving out to further away from the capital?
I mean, I think I can't say that we're seeing the same tendency in action. What I am experiencing is a rise in owners and developers contemplating creating sort of flexible workplace solutions in satellites around Copenhagen. Obviously with the objective of catering to the suburbs. And I think, I mean, I think this is something that was coming. I think COVID has accelerated it. I'm still keen to see, in action, is it going to be successful? Is it going to work? Like Roger mentioned also, I mean, we've also seen a lot of creative attempts to sort of get access to all of these people that are working from home but can't really work from home, tapping into the work from anywhere approach. There are a few startups that are trying to play into it. We're seeing some cafes and restaurants also doing it. And also, we've also seen quite a lot of hotels actually making some pretty substantial investments into transforming their own spaces, be that either the utility of their rooms or the shared spaces and lobbies to cater more for a professional environment. I think the hotel approach is an interesting one, and I think there is a long-term opportunity there that's worth viewing at more. I'm keen to see if they will revert back into normality afterwards. I don't think so. I'm a bit more skeptical when it comes to the cafes and the restaurants and so on, because it does require a different kind of operations, and you know, I don't mind going down and sitting at a cafe and doing some work. I'll do maybe a few hours 2 times a week, but to actually sit there for 8 hours straight, I have a hard time seeing that. And I also think from them, you know, when people go down in there and sit and work, they'll order a cup of coffee, they'll do that, and they take up space that I think could generate more revenue if it was used in a different way. So I'm not too sure about the long-term business model on that, at least as it is now.
Yeah, I share your thoughts, absolutely. And in Helsinki, Hannu, can you see any trends that is going in this direction when the COVID will be over?
Yeah, there has been all kinds of changes week by week this year. So, but from what's happened in the past weeks or months here in Helsinki and Finland. So one example is that Helsinki, I think it's Helsinki, that they have tried to make this place appealing place for this high-skilled workforce to come and work from home office, so-called. So the target has been Silicon Valley people, for example, that they don't need to be there, especially now the situation is in many ways there is challenging. So they could come to Helsinki where COVID situation is a little bit easier, milder currently. So they have been trying to target to those. So that's one interesting outcome for the past months. And well, the same thing in the hospital industry has been seen in Finnish market, that now that people are not able to move that much, but they need to have some sort of change in their lives every now and then, so they could go and work from a hotel, for example. And of course, in the long run, there's still also from our company's perspective, there's always a human need for interaction to maintain the creativity and inspire each other, get the good energy for the day. So and when it comes to workplace, so it's a community of people. So if that becoming too fragmented with all the local offices, so I think it's too early to comment anything what's happening in Finnish market in that sense, what I heard from other countries being said here. But of course, one thing what's happening here is that many people who have been working in other countries and they have returned to Finland now, so they are working from their cottages or so on, and it's easy. High-speed connections are serving well in this country, so that has been possible also.
Exactly. Didn't Finland run a global ad campaign to actually invite foreigners to stay in Finland for 6 months and experience the Finnish lifestyle?
Yeah, so yeah, something like that. I was just referring. That's been in the news, like was last week or so.
So if you can't work in central London anyway, why don't go to outside of Oulu or Helsinki and
Yeah,
work remote? That's good.
One thing that anybody wasn't mentioning here is this that this is a Nordic panel and everybody is enjoying the weather that we have now outside. Is it winter or fall storm that's ongoing? So looking at those stats there, so personally, I can really see what that is. That is good to go to the office every now and then, but sometimes you just want to stay home and not to go outside, especially on a day like this.
It's a cold storm out there. Interesting. So I mean, it's the future of potential change in the office market is for sure a big question. I mean, so I heard someone call it a $2 trillion question. What will happen with demand for office? And it's not about the next 3 to 6 months. It's about the next 3 to 10 years, because most companies, they have long leases, and even in the Nordics, so I assume there's at least 2 or 3 years on average. So going forward, we have another 25 minutes, and let's dive into what deals or funding or specific news have you seen in your countries the last quarter. So we have to start with Norway, obviously, Henrik.
Yeah, no, this was a great deal. So I of course, I've known the founders since day one, and I had a close dialogue with them since they had a pitch deck. And this sounds like it's way back, but this was 2016 when they quit their jobs and started this company called Spacemaker. Uses AI for urban development, and always been a fascinating product. They're doing really well with matching kind of the high tech, extremely nerdy tech with kind of a good profiling of the company and like a kind of a sexy look to the company always. And now they were bought by Autodesk for 240 million 4 years after they launched. So this is kind of a crazy story, but it's very, very good for Norwegian PropTech. And also they are like a super group of guys, the 3 guys, and you see Anders, Håvard, and Kalle in the picture, and they are now taking their millions and wanted to reinvest in like startups and PropTech in Norway. So if they have a billion kroners for that, then of course it's interesting. But there's also an interesting side story here, because it shows that you don't have to go through Series A, B, C, D, and do all of that. These guys did Series A, and then they sold to Autodesk. So is it too early? Who knows? But I spoke with Håvard, the guy in the middle there, yesterday, and he said that, well, like now they have enough money to for the rest of their life anyway, but that has never been their motivation. Like their motivation has been to kind of create a new product for a new way to design things all over the world. And if this takes off with the help of Autodesk, that's great. Like they are set anyway. So they are just thinking that this could go 10x for them, but it's still been a great success story. So it's an interesting way to do kind of the scale ups there. And also just to mention shortly, Air Things, of course, gone public, done really well, have sales of 100 million kroners on Amazon. So they are, of course, a really solid air quality company. My ex-WeWork colleague Salman Saeed is starting a lot of these new PropTech companies as well, with FlexSpace, doing a list of flexible offices, and a lot of other companies as well. And Visma has acquired a whole company of Great Solutions, which is also a big transaction. So like there are 3 like major transactions in the market in the last couple of months, and I've seen a lot of these other tech companies that I know that are not necessarily PropTech, but do like video tech or anything, they are doing really well these days. So I think this is a good time for new ideas.
Some really great news there from Norway for sure. If you haven't looked into SpaceMaker, you have to look into it. It's a terrific product and really good sales pitch too. So it's a good story for sure. So moving to Denmark.
So yeah, we had the big German company, they bought EG, bought up Procedo. We don't really know how much for. We were actually discussing it here at the office the other day. But I think it's a really good, it's an interesting prospect. I know that, you know, property management solutions here in Denmark, I think we have one player that sits on somewhere between 85 and 90% of the market, which is obviously a substantial share. And that also gives them an opportunity to sort of set the tone and direction for how this market is supposed to move and develop. So I also feel like EG, being one of the smaller players in Denmark, this is a statement of intent from their behalf, and they're looking at going into Procedo, who are thinking much more in terms of how do we manage communications, how do we create less friction in terms of our product. So that's really interesting. We're also seeing some far more interest in the entire tenant management approach and the tenant engagement solutions out there. Danish business angels going into Hokoko is a really good sign of that. They already have a few really interesting customers. This is already a pretty crowded space on a global scale. But I still think that there is very much an opportunity for actually doing something here. There is no real clear winner. I don't think there really will be. The market, real estate is such a fragmented space, so there's plenty of opportunity for everyone. And I think Hokoko is perhaps the first player out there to actually delve into this space and manage tenant solutions, at least from a Danish startup point of view. And yeah, then Proper and Exigo got some funding from the Danish Innovation Fund. You know, this is very much based on how can they helping them fund new innovative solutions. I know Proper also raised a pretty substantial round early in the year and are looking to a little south of the border towards both Germany, the Benelux, and the UK and Ireland. So I think they have a really interesting product. It's a very different way of seeing property management, and my clear sensation is that they're doing really well within the market that they're aiming for. So I think that both they and their investors are keen to use that momentum in terms of moving outwards. And yeah, the last one is we get a lot of interest from foreign investors. A lot of VC going our way, both directly, but also through the Danish Trade Council. And what I found interesting is, you know, they're reaching out to us, obviously, because of the Danish PropTech market, but just as much because of the Nordic space and trying to get a sense for that. And we've supported some. We've also, we know that there are a few deals that are underway. And I think we in the Nordics have a really, really interesting opportunity when it comes to anything PropTech meets sustainability. This is a very, very clear question from them. They're very interested to hear what we're doing, how we're solving it. You know, in Denmark, in the Nordics, we can all think that we should be doing more in this space, which I think we should. But from a more international perspective, we're actually pretty much ahead of the curve. So I think this is something that we as both a local and a Nordic ecosystem should be supporting way more, because I think it can really, really drive some interesting deal flow.
Very good point. Very good point.
So, and I mean, we're getting, you know, one thing's from Europe and the US, but I mean, even as much as Asia and Australia, and even some in the Middle East too. So really interesting to see that we are moving the needle here, and I think the Nordics can pat themselves on the back in terms of really being loud and vocal about this agenda. And the last one that is not on the list is our other startup, LifeX, the co-living startup. They raised 6 million euros a little earlier in this quarter. So really good, well done for them. Even despite Corona and so on, they've seen a very positive trajectory. Their investors seem very keen on this, and they've managed to put boots on the ground in several cities around Europe and are doing really well. And I think their approach to co-living is an interesting one, because it's not in the we're going to develop an entire building sort of way. They find unique units around cities, then they repurpose that particular unit to serve 3, 4, 5, 6 people within the co-living mode. And until now, it's been a very successful story, and they've done really well for themselves.
That's great news. That's another interesting segment for sure, co-living. So moving over to Finland.
All right, so there has been deals in here also. The ones here, hopefully some of you were listening Kalle Salmi's presentation today. That is a big deal. Congratulations for them. Of course, like he mentioned, few reasons behind having such a high round are that they are actually investing in real estate as well. However, being tech driven, and Linear raises 1.1 million from an investor who's been actually active in for a long time in PropTech field already. That's good news. One thing which is quite interesting is this 30% of the startups are building IoT solutions, and most of them are coming from Oulu area. So I don't know if all of you are aware of that, but there is some relation and heritage to Nokia as well. Most likely that it's been for decades already engineer oriented and networking engineering oriented area, Oulu area, and there's a lot of competence in that area. And now as the 5G network is coming to commercialization phase, so that 30% there, it is something to keep in mind, that there might be very interesting news coming in future as well. And this week there was also in the news that world record in the speed of network was done in Finland by Nokia and was it Elisa, and I don't remember how fast it was, but things are moving on, and we are living interesting times in terms of that. And what else is not mentioned here? Haltian, they acquired Tieto empathic building. It's been also in the agenda of Recotech for the past few years, that Tieto's project, and it found a new home now. And was it last week there was announced that FinCap acquired Kanava Tools, residential property management solution that's been in the market for years already. One interesting from the real estate investor side is that the Pontos family office kind of they invested in this Fifth Falls coming from a West Coast US. Was it their first European fund, and so there was participation from Finland as well. I saw there was something mentioned. Was it from Norway? I don't know. Like, what was the if there were any other funds or investors participating from Nordics, but at least from Finland there was.
I think you mentioned the Fifth Wall dinner that was arranged by Henrik a few months ago.
So Fifth Wall, they were in Oslo in August, and we had all the kind of the influential real estate people in the market there attending, and then they presented there, and they were actually to do this role of upper man was in quarantine for over a week in Oslo just to do this. So it shows some interest in the Nordic market, I would say.
That's a good evidence, and maybe we could have an entire webinar on all the different PropTech funds that are in the market right now or raising. There's quite a few.
Yeah.
Great. So
just like a few more. So of course there's a basic market news from the scale-ups, Hyperin, Assetti, Xquans, even though the times are challenging, they are expanding their operations, acquiring new clients. For example, Xquans has made a new deal with Anrep, this Denmark-based investor who also invested in Kodit.io, and Hyperin, Assetti. One thing what they have been also doing is developing their APIs and API integrations with other legacy platforms in the industry. So that's a good sign now that things are moving forward.
Yeah, it's a really good sign, especially in those environments and times. So Sweden, Roger.
Yeah, well, the biggest thing I think last week was Infobrik acquired BuildSafe and EquipMop. That's more for, of course, construction context site, but of course, PropTech and Contech is the same here now. So I think really good and congratulations to both of them and all three of those. That's going to change the market even more. Mito raises 1.2 million from Mito is a smart management. So of course now when we at the office space, so smart management. So if you're sitting, it's like a flowscape. So if you sit on a desk, is a hot desk, so you can manage that and so on. Minute closed a really big one here. I'm using them myself at home here in London. They're amazing. I've talked to the founder there for a couple of months ago and keep them on the track. So it's sometimes you forget that it's a Swedish company because it's so based in London and Airbnb. So it's just been huge. So it's really cool. Tessins is crowdfunding for real estate. So that's something that we see is growing both in Sweden and I know especially here in London also to crowdfunding your the real estate or crowdfunding your own house and so on. I think that's going to be, we're going to look into that more and more in the future, that family and friends can crowdfund your house and get interest from that. I think we will see much more of that. And then Kinnevik, big Swedish VC, leads the co-living platform Common. And I think also just this week it was a huge a big report that actually co-living take down the energy and to 50%. So if you share space and so on, that's huge benefits to move to the climate neutral and to the global mode 2030. So I think this is something also we're going to see much more of, especially if we have stats on it, and we can see the community is increasing and people like it. Other thing we can see in Sweden right now is SF Invest has started a company called SF Ventures. So it's a VC firm now. So they're going strong. They did a first investment in a company called HomePal. It's a data integration, a member of us, PropTech Sweden. So HomePal raised some money too, a really cool company. And then we can see we had one of the big real estate, Klövern, who's investing more and more in stuff. It's really interesting to see from that side that the real estate company actually investing. Another big thing here in Sweden is that Riksbyggen, a really big real estate, 50,000 tenants, starting their own PropTech company to do a tenant experience and so on. That's little a game changer. And I don't think, of course, we shouldn't be afraid of that. I just see it's a huge impact on the market, and to see that's where we're going with PropTech solutions.
Great update there. And talking about Swedish-based VC firms, or actually private equity, I did a teaser in the newsletter that there were actually a 2 billion euro investment, and I have to tell you a little bit more about that. There's a Swedish private equity company called EQT that is very well known and from a very famous background of a company group here in Sweden. So they, in the middle of September, did a bet on actually buying Idealista, which is a residential listing, the #1 residential listing, as far as I'm concerned, in Spain. And a week later, they acquired the Italian #1 resi listing service. So 2 huge bets on the PropTech market in Southern Europe, though. So congratulations for everyone down there, hopefully, and also for the PE company in the long run. But we were talking about PropTech funds earlier. I mean, I believe that this bet on the resi listing service in Southern Europe is bigger than all the PropTech funds we have been talking about combined, their entire portfolios. So this is a massive, massive bet. So it's very hard to be the biggest PropTech investor in Sweden nowadays, for sure. It was slightly easier a few years back. So we have another 6 minutes. So very quickly go around the table and say more from each country's PropTech association. What's on the horizon, any events, any agenda update. So quick update from each team. And let's start with Denmark.
Thank you. I'll try again. No, so I mean, we're wrapping our year up. It's been a really exciting year for us. We've managed to develop and deliver on the platform that we were mandated to do. So obviously it's been one kind of year, and next year is going to be a very different kind of year. We have already initiated a few partner projects, which was part of where we wanted to end. The first one being with one of the more mature PropTech startups today. They have invested substantially into helping us grow the ecosystem and create more awareness on PropTech from also the technology side, which is great. And the second one is the large facility management provider Core. We have designed a full-scale program for them with a very large internal capability building track. And on top of that, they have asked us to help them develop an award, which is something that we will come out with later next year. We will invite all of the Nordic PropTech associations and startups to be part of that journey. Formally, as of now, it is referred to as the Nordic PropTech Awards. And we're very keen to see how that's going to play out and how we can use that as hopefully one of the first means to creating a more combined Nordic initiative. That also plays very much into that most of our members that have a Nordic footprint or more, be that things like NREP or Balder, just to name a few, have also asked us that we work more on a Nordic union approach. So that's something that we've discussed here amongst the Nordic countries before. Now we have a clear mandate from many of our members and sponsors to actually try and drive this. We are also seeing an increased number in Nordic, Swedish, Finnish startups that are looking to enter the market here in the Nordics. We're obviously inviting them all in. We already have 1 or 2 that have taken spaces up in our lab. So, I mean, I think we're really on the right track, and I look forward to speaking with my Nordic colleagues about how we can make this work in the best possible way, and how we can create more opportunities on that. And cool. I think, in terms of the news, that's what's there. You're about to say, Magnus, sorry.
Oh, fantastic. No, unfortunately, time is running out, so we need to wrap it up in a few minutes. So going to Finland?
Well, yeah, the Recotech is going on, so that's the biggest effort for the whole year. And as mentioned, Tasha and Mikael are busy currently organizing it, and so far the event has been very good, and I believe not just a lot of interest, but a lot of good conversations, interesting presentations, and so on. And then wrapping up the event afterwards, then we know more where we are and how it was. And of course, there will be continuity for the next year. And hard to say now. Well, like for example, was the Recotech for the next year. But like I said already in the beginning, the challenging year, however, has been driving the PropTech agenda forward and atmosphere forward in Finland. So things are moving forward.
Fantastic. Sweden?
Yeah, no, I mean we're growing, so it's amazing. We're having 2 events coming next week, and then we will have a huge cool event 8th December about your real estate on the moon with people from NASA. So we're really looking forward to that. That everyone can join in there. We will send out invitation from that.
Fantastic. And Henrik?
Yeah, cool. I want to join that as well. So, but yeah, so in Norway, we of course have reevaluated our whole concept after COVID. We used to run these mega events in Norwegian terms, physical events, and now we have these kind of smaller forums so we take key decision makers in the real estate industry, key decision makers in the PropTech industry, and movers and shakers in the industry, and you gather perhaps 30 people and have some international speakers and do that. So that's been like kind of our internal forum that's been really interesting, and we are planning both newsletters and more kind of outgoing events, but we are just waiting for kind of finding the right format for going forward. But we have now staffed up with Daniel, who's watching here as well, who's been have now a position to do the day-to-day work for us. So it's going to be a lot easier and more professional with Daniel on board. So we're very happy for that.
Fantastic. It sounds that we are on the right track to do more work together for sure. Mm-hmm. So a lot of good companies and good ideas in Nordic region. So let's help them and push them to go global. So with respect of time, we're 1 minute over. So thank everyone on the panel. Thank you all of you that have been listening in the fight for spotlight with Professor Andrew Baumer from Oxford University. So I'm glad you've been here, and see you in a quarter. And if you have any news or updates or fundings you want us to push, just drop us an email at news@nordicproptech.com. So thank you all. See you soon.